Welcome to the Rising Society podcast. I'm Shane Kennedy.
This Nico Galliano, the rejected gentleman.
All right. Well, it's been a while, Nico.
That was a slow pull-off on the sunglasses, man.
Yeah, man.
It has been a minute, brother.
Well, I've had a cup and a half of coffee, so.
Oh, you said, oh, look at you, man. But you're Cuban. You're used to espresso.
Amen.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm having some 7 and 7, or no, ginger and Seagram's. Something.
That sounds really, really good.
It's delicious.
And listen, next time I'm definitely having some whiskey.
Are you?
Yeah.
For sure? We can put that on record?
Yeah, 100%.
I'm in.
Yep. Yeah, let's pencil it in.
I am in.
Okay, so let's start off by talking about, so there was a Princeton study that was done about a year ago, and the study aimed to answer the question, here, let me see. Does the government represent the people? And the way that they conducted the study was they took a whole bunch of opinion, the results of a whole bunch of opinion surveys where they asked people basically what political issues are important to you. You know, probably asking about things like taxes and abortion and war and stuff like that. And then what they did was they went and looked at what the legislative priorities were of the Congress. Mm-hmm. And they also went and looked to see, well, what are the executive priorities of the president, you know, over the past 20 years. And what they found is that there was that there was little to no relationship between what political priorities the American people had and what they actually get passed in Congress.
Do you know what the percent was?
So it was here. In fact, I can read you a direct quote from the study. And again, this was a study that was done at Princeton. This is not a bastion of
some wackadoo in his basement.
Yeah. So the study was not a Fox News poll or something like that.
Okay.
So the preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy. So, you know, I wanted to kind of bring that up to kind of dovetail into discussing the foreign aid package that was recently passed like a few weeks ago. $95 billion were passed to be sent to Ukraine, Israel, and the Indo-Pacific, Taiwan. So out of that $95 billion, $61 billion going to Ukraine,
of course,
$26 billion going to Israel,
okay,
and $8 billion going to the Indo-Pacific, mostly to Taiwan.
Got it.
So the thing is, the American people really wanted for the border to be secure. Mm-hmm. That's not happening.
Do you think that would have cost less than $95 billion?
Oh, securing the border?
Yeah.
It would cost substantially less
You
than
think
that.
just a little less?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would probably be a fraction of that. But the thing is, remember, the people with the money, mm-hmm, who are aiming to make more money, they don't really want to close the border down because if people like Nancy Pelosi weren't able to hire illegal immigrants to
cheap labor,
to clean their pool and to clean their house and everything like that, then that would mean that she would have to hire Americans to do those kind of things.
Correct.
You know, and that would be expensive
cost them a fortune
for her. Now remember something,
and they lose voters.
That's right. And remember something: the Pelosi's are not billionaires. They're only worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Of course.
So
we shouldn't put them with the upper elite. Correct.
That's right. Yeah, like we're not talking about Jeff Bezos level people here. We're not talking about Bill Gates level people here. We're talking about the very, very humble Pelosi's. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about that?
Dude, I think it's absolutely outrageous. 100%. We've always said, they say voting doesn't matter, but technically voting does matter. Because maybe not on individual issues, but it still matters on voting for the person that you'd like to represent you. I mean, it's like putting a figure on a Monopoly board. Like, you get to pick your piece, right? Like, I like to be the race car. So I put the race car down. But then it would be like if he rolled for himself, if he moved for himself, every time he collected money, he just put it for himself. It'd be like that. Like, I got to pick the race car, but the race car doesn't give a fuck that I'm even sitting at the table. He's just playing his own game. He's buying his own hotels. You know what I mean? But when it comes time when he hits jail, I go. He doesn't have to go. So it's wild, dude. Like, I don't know. I don't think it matters who you necessarily vote for anymore. I don't think it matters on even a local level if you're voting for a new law. Like, how many times do we have to fucking vote that we want the daylight savings time to stay the time it is now? What is this? Is this the actual time or is this the made up one? This is the made up one we're in.
True, I can never keep up with it.
Me either.
Truthfully, it
Doesn't make any sense to me, right? Yeah, who the fuck knows, dude? Anyways, we have voted. This is the time we want, and like I think like 13 states have adopted it already, and we're like, this is the state. This is the time we want. We don't want to fucking fall backwards. Or whatever the hell you're gonna have us do? It's fall back. Yeah, fall backwards. We want to lose an hour.
Fall back and spring forward.
We don't want it getting dark at fucking 4:30. No one wants that, and they're like, "But the school kids, they're not going to school anyways."
Well, you know, so the thing is, you take something like daylight savings time. You take something like ensuring that the public school system protects, or that the public school system is operating smoothly, and that the public school system is not being used. Or that the public school system is not undermining the values that have been taught to kids by the parents. Mm-hmm. The thing is, none of that stuff is a priority in this country.
None.
But the thing is, if you're someone like Vladimir Zelensky, who by the way, he suspended the elections, so he's officially a dictator now. Yeah, so now officially we're funding the war in Ukraine to save democracy for a dictator who suspended elections and suspended
because he's not supposed to be president
parties
anymore, right?
Right. Yeah,
they're supposed to actually have their actual like election.
Yeah.
Did they do it every 4 years?
I don't know. I think it might be every 5 years.
5 years,
because
okay.
I think he was elected in 2019.
But the time's up, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, he was elected in 19, so it'd be this year.
The election was supposed to happen like the beginning of May or mid-May,
mm-hmm.
and he suspended it. Like, there's not going to be an election.
He's going to be the president until the war's over.
But the reason that they suspended the election is so that they can save democracy,
mm-hmm.
right? So, and if you question that, then you're a pro-Putin Russian puppet stooge propagandist, right?
That was the problem with the Confederacy. They had to do a lot of things that contradicted the shit they were fighting for. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, yeah. So I don't think. Maybe the war in Ukraine might not be as noble. Depends how you view it, I guess.
Well, and the thing is, we didn't suspend elections during World War II in the United States. So I would think that in Western Ukraine, where you can go and Google like Kiev nightclubs and stuff, and people are still partying down in nightclubs in the capital of Ukraine, in Kiev, they could hold elections.
Mm-hmm.
100%
they could.
The wars are being fought, the battles are being fought like in the Donbass and up in right now up in Kharkiv mm-hmm. in northern Ukraine and everything. But the thing is, in Western Ukraine, life is kind of carrying on as normal. There are some missile attacks and stuff that happen in Western Ukraine, but they're still able to have nightclubs and they're still able to party every night.
Of course.
So the thing is, I would imagine if you can keep nightclubs open, you could probably still hold a general election.
I think they're thinking about the areas that are affected by the war. Think about it. You're talking about two major areas. That's only the western side you just said.
Yeah.
They want to represent the whole country. Shane, those people got to be represented when they vote, brother.
But remember, the people in Donbass they haven't been allowed to vote in elections since 2014 anyway, or 2013. That's what a lot of this fighting has been over.
Yes, of course.
And the side we took is the side that hasn't allowed the people in Donbass to vote. That you see, voting in Ukraine's elections, being allowed to vote in Ukraine's elections for allowing the eastern part of Ukraine, the Donbass, to vote. Mm-hmm. That's part of the Minsk Accords mm-hmm. that everybody agreed to, and the Minsk Accords are what Putin has been whining and complaining about this entire time. He's been saying France and Germany guaranteed that the Minsk Accords would be implemented and that it would allow the people in eastern Ukraine to stop being continuously shelled since 2014, for that to stop and for them to be allowed to start voting in elections. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, most Americans don't really know anything about what's happening in other countries around the world, except for whatever they're seeing on like, especially on cable news. Like, boomers, I'm looking at you, and they call television programming. They call it programming for a reason. Mm-hmm. Like they're receiving all kinds of they're being told all kinds of things that are just like half truths and just outright lies. Mm-hmm.
Mostly outright lies.
Yeah, and the thing I would recommend is for people to go and actually Google the Minsk Accords. Go and Google them. Go and look them up, and look and see that's kind of the heart of this conflict over there. I mean, there's other things at play, but and so I think this is all just one big giant grift. And ultimately, the whole reason I wanted to bring up Ukraine in particular is, we can even talk about Israel too, is that Zelensky in Ukraine and Netanyahu in Israel, they are more represented in the American democratic system than American citizens are.
100%.
This system works better for them than it does for average Americans, for the American working class. And the thing is, it's got to stop. This system, it's not working for average people anymore. And ultimately, it's mainline Democrats and mainline Republicans that have sold working people down the river.
Dude, in all honesty, I want you to be honest. What do you think $95 billion would do towards the education system in this country?
It would revolutionize it.
The border, right? We talk about like homelessness, right? We talk about all these social programs and safety nets for like mental illness in this country. Like, we know we have a lot of mental illnesses. It's not just this country, it's in the world. There's a lot of weird shit out there, man. What would $95 billion do towards those things? It would be wild.
So in the United States, in the 2022-2023 school year, the average national spend per student in the United States, that this is figuring in the federal, state, and local education budgets and kind of averaging everything together and then dividing it per student. The United States spent $16,281 per student in the United States. That's what we spent.
And how many students at any given time, K through 12, are there in a physical year? Take last year. We can take the highest year, which is going to be very interesting to see.
What do you want to know? The number of students?
How many students are in America at one time, K through 12, in an average year? We'll take last year. Take 2023, because I guarantee if
49.4 million.
All right. And what's 95 billion divided by that number? That's a lot of fucking people, man.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a great number at all.
All right, here, I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, it's
95, 1, 2, 3.
It's going to be a really small number, actually.
4, 9.
95 billion wouldn't do shit. Maybe I'm wrong on this.
Well, it's $1,923 per student. So
we get an extra $2,000 a year on every student, because they're spending what, 16.8 right now?
Yeah.
You put extra $2,000 on, that's 18.8.
Well, and $2,000 per student. That's the ability to buy them one hell of an iPad or one hell of a laptop. That you could spend $2,000 per student in the United States and buy them one hell of a hunk of technology.
Or $2,000 per student. That's enough to I don't know. If you divvy that out amongst, that's enough to get some more teachers. I can tell you that.
Yes, it is.
$2,000 per student. Definitely enough to start hiring some more teachers, so we don't have fucking 35 kids in the classroom. We have behavioral kids in the classroom with disabled kids in a regular classroom. Dude, it was a fucking mess when I was teaching. It was everywhere. I couldn't give any special attention. It didn't matter what the fuck your problem was or what you needed help with. If you didn't fit the mold or the standard of the average 18 kids and you were one of the 12 kids that needed any kind of special attention, you weren't getting it.
And there's a saying out there, charity starts at home, right? And so the thing is, before we're concerned about about fomenting and subsidizing wars overseas, like the Ethiopian Civil War, the war in Ukraine, the ethnic cleansing in Gaza that the Israelis are doing, Taiwan, all this stuff with China. But before we're obsessed and fixated on blowing all this money around the world on weapons and armaments and trying to get this country to fight this country and trying to make sure that this country loses against this country, we ought to be, if we're going to spend the money, if we're going to spend it, if we're hell-bent on spending it.
Yeah, like we have a spending problem.
Yeah.
We got to spend it somewhere.
Yeah, but this is the thing. If we're going to blow the money, we should be blowing it here. We should be blowing it on stuff. You can think about, so imagine that you've got a household, right? Mm-hmm. So imagine you've got 2 parents and you've got like 3 kids. Mm-hmm. Okay, so imagine that you're dealing with like an average working class family, budget's kind of tight every month and everything. Well, let's say that a fight breaks out on the other side of the neighborhood between 2 gangs. And the father decides, you know what, we're going to max out all of our credit cards so we can buy a whole bunch of weapons for the gang that I like, for the gang that I support, for the gang that I believe needs to win. So what we're going to do is it's going to be tough times for us. Kids, you guys are going to have to go hungry a couple of nights. This is not going to be a very good Christmas. It's not going to be a very good Easter. And by the way,
it's a great analogy. Dude.
And by the way, this isn't going to be a very good Halloween either because you're not going to get any. You're not going to get any candy.
A fucking costume.
No, yeah, you're not getting a costume.
But don't worry, your dad's already a fucking clown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and let's also say that the father went out and bought himself a clown costume.
Yeah, he's a fucking clown.
Well, so let's say he bought a clown costume. He put on the credit card. It's his credit card.
Some money on himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the thing is, what ends up happening is the gangs duke it out. The gangs eventually like stalemate. A bunch of gang members end up dying. They end up killing each other or whatever. A bunch of gangbangers. But then the family is stuck with this massive frickin' bill. And they're paying massive interest rates and overall, people in the neighborhood, they don't really want to associate with that family anymore because the people in the neighborhood are like, you guys are nuts.
You guys gave them money?
Yeah, people in the neighborhood are like, you guys are evil clowns. Mm-hmm. You guys are evil, wicked clowns. Like you guys are in massive debt, and you guys are just like trafficking weapons, and it's not even in your interest.
I apologize. It wouldn't be the dad buying a clown costume for himself. He would actually give that back to the family. He'd be like, don't worry, we'll be warm because you're all in clown costumes for allowing me to do this shit. The clowns would be the family. The American people would be the clowns. If you're not catching on this fucking metaphor. Shane, that was beautifully done, dude.
Thank you.
I pictured all of that. That's wild, man. Can you look up one number for me real quick?
Yeah.
That's students, right? How many homeless people are there in America in 2023? I know they probably don't go and fucking like ask them all, but let's see. Were they assuming?
The homeless population... Homeless population in the United States in 2023 was 653,100 people.
That cannot be accurate. I step over more than that many homeless people trying to get to a soccer game.
Are you talking about when you visited California?
Yeah, California, Florida. Dude, I've seen that many homeless people on one street corner. There's no way that's accurate.
No, it looks like that's accurate.
653,000 homeless people? That's less than 1 million people in the whole fucking country are homeless. There's no way. There's no way.
Homeless population
in America.
2023. Yeah, 653,104.
All right, we'll be super generous. Okay,
all right, well, let's say 1 million.
I was going to say, let's round up to 1 million.
You want to divide the 95
billion? How did you know what I wanted to do? Divide the 95 billion. I guarantee these fuckers are millionaires. They would be in the top 0.01% of the world.
So that works out to be $145,459.22.
What? That's not accurate.
Yes, it is.
That's nowhere near as much money as I thought. They wouldn't be nowhere near as much money as I thought. 653,000? divided into 95 billion.
95 billion. That's 145,459 per person. I mean,
They made more money than I did for sure. Holy fuck.
dude, that's a substantial amount of money.
Dude, why did I think it'd be like millions of dollars per person? Holy shit, I am off tonight. Too many of these fucking ginger ales.
Well, you're probably off because $95 billion, it's a lot for low people on the totem pole like us to comprehend. And it's not much for psychopaths like Victoria Nuland and Robert Kagan. And,
you're right. It's probably my public education paying off, dude.
That's you and me both.
Yeah, dumb fuck. Holy shit, it's nowhere near as much as I thought. But if we did, instead of we're going to spend it anyways, like you said, we're just like, I got to spend it, man.
Yeah,
we're fucking just jonesing,
I got to
right?
get the credit card points.
It's like fucking crack for us, right? We got to spend it. Instead of spending $95 billion to have people kill each other, right, in a conflict that doesn't concern us, we could have gave every homeless person and more money than most Americans are going to make in 4 fucking years.
Yep.
3 to 4 years. And that's if you're an American that's doing well.
Well, and that just goes to
these homeless people would literally be in the top 10% of America. We just ended homelessness.
And this perfectly encapsulates what that Princeton study showed. Is that our that the needs and needs and popular policies that the American people want their government to pass and they want their government to do. And look, for all my libertarian kinfolk and stuff out there, I'm not advocating that we just blow up the size of government or something. But I'm just looking at if we're asking the question, is the government responding to the people? Is the government carrying out the will of the people? The answer is no. Now, the interesting thing to note is it's not that the government is just it's not that the government is just foregoing delivering, like the government is basically given the choice, okay, am I going to carry out the policies that are popular, the policies that the voters want, or am I just not going to do it? It's not that they're just choosing not to do anything. It's that instead they're choosing to hand all the money over to foreign governments. So what they're doing is they're very literally pickpocketing working class people in America. And you know what? You may be saying, oh, well, my income tax rate hasn't gone up. I'm not paying more in sales taxes. I'm not paying more in property tax. I'm not paying more in taxes. Well, guess what, baby? You are
crazy. Yeah, baby.
Well, Nico, what happens whenever they print a buttload of new money and ram it into the system? What's that called? What happens to prices?
Do I get 3 guesses?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and do 3 guesses.
All right. Well, my first one, I'm going to go off the cuff here. I'm going out on a limb. Limb might break. Is it inflation?
That's it. Bingo. And so the thing is, so that we can continue funding the Ukrainian military, and so that we can continue providing them with intelligence, weapons, tanks, cruise missiles, so we can continue providing them with everything to carry on their war against the Russians. We're paying the average working class American. They're paying sky high prices that they can't afford at the grocery store for meat, eggs, milk,
fill up the
produce,
fucking car,
everything.
Yeah.
Well, no, they can't afford to fill up the fucking car.
No, you're getting a quarter tank.
Yeah, exactly.
Enjoy, baby.
If that, they're only getting a quarter tank if they end up finding like a $20 bill inside of the cushions of the couch or something like that.
Who the fuck drops a $20 bill? Dude, your analogies are fucking. You're either spot on or way off. You find quarters in the couch. No one finds $20 bills in the couch.
You want to know whose houses you find $20 bills in the couch of?
Nancy Pelosi. Are we allowed to say it? Yeah, I can say it.
Yeah,
Nancy Pelosi's fucking couch.
Or,
that's who.
And the couches of clowns.
No, clowns are the American people. They made us dress up like fucking bozo, dude. Do a little circus dance, a little jig.
Yep.
That's what they do.
And they love to do it, don't they?
They're not clowns. They're assholes.
Good point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the thing is, I guess that kind of brings us to kind of the logical next question, we can kind of understand just based upon the kind of the hyper specific thing that we've looked at. What's ultimately the solution? How do we rectify the situation? How do we solve this problem? How do we make the government start working for the people? And how do we remove the foreign influence that's suckling at the teat of our government at the expense of all the other puppies?
Well,
and don't say anything that's going to get us banned.
I was just about to say, dude, I can't answer this question. You backed me into a fucking corner here. So it's like talking about both sides of our mouth, right? The correct answer is just vote for the right people.
Yeah,
man.
just go out and vote. Yeah,
hope they do the right thing, right? I hope they're stick to their word. Mm-hmm. You know, the other one, I mean, just use your imagination, dude.
You know, the first thing that I think we should do, which I know is something that you'll agree with, is
you don't know that.
Oh, I know it for a fact. What we need to do is, I think we need to abolish the administrative agencies in the federal government, like the Department of Education, Department of Energy.
But it's the thing; they're not going to let you get rid of that.
Well, and so the thing is, I think that's the only real solution here.
How do you get rid of them?
And
why would they let you get rid of them? Those are proxies. Those are buffers, man.
Well, so ultimately, but the
pillars.
So the thing is, we can view those as cancerous tumors, and they've metastasized, right? So what we need to do is figure out what is the treatment that we can do to the body to heal it, or the other, So I think they're kind of like we're at a fork in the road. There are one of two directions we can go with this. We can either talk about what we can do to heal this broken government that we have, or we can talk about how do we forge ahead and create parallel institutions so that we can continue governing ourselves, governing our families, and governing our communities independent of this broken state.
So I've always been a firm believer, and I love that you phrase it that way. I've always been a firm believer that if you come to that fork in the road, you have to choose the parallel because it's the only logical one. If you are building simultaneously along a separate society, I think that's the part of the society that will thrive. Because if you try to go the other route where you're like, how do we handle these tumors? You come up with like 1,000 really things that don't really work. And the only thing that works guaranteed is the scalpel. Mm. So if you catch my drift on that, if you go that way, you have to use the scalpel, and the scalpel's always by force in cutting out.
Well, and at that point, you're talking. I mean, you're really talking about a civil war,
correct? And
a civil war is a conflict that we all lose.
Everyone loses. But that's my point. Is you have to give up sometimes parts of the body to get out the cancer, right? So the scalpel. That's why you can't go that way, because it always leads to the scalpel. You have to cut it out because you'll try 1,000 things and they won't work. It keeps growing, this tumor, no matter your efforts. But if you go the other way, where you're building alongside in society, eventually that cancer side that you've built a new body to jump into, and this one just kind of dies off because it can't support itself. It can't last.
I think what's happened, I would say the end of the post-World War II era has really accelerated it. But there's whenever we use the term liberalism, that's a very, very broad umbrella. Like you got classical liberals, which are really more of what libertarians are.
Yeah, that's me, more of a classical liberal.
Yeah, but I think a problem with liberalism, because when you get down to the core of liberalism, you're really, I mean, of true like true philosophical liberalism, you're really dealing with true small L. You're dealing with small L libertarians, right? Where basically what you say is everyone is an autonomous individual, and if you and humans. I'm trying to think of how to properly word this. That everyone is an autonomous individual, and any understanding of humans beyond that is some form of oppression. And I think it's kind of murky waters because America was really founded upon liberalism being kind of like the cornerstone of our government. But liberalism was never the cornerstone of our culture. And so I guess to kind of flesh this out a little bit is when our government deals with any of us, the citizens, the government is supposed to be blind, right? Like the blind Lady Justice, with the scales and everything. But the idea that every one of the founding fathers had, even the crazier ones, was that you had kind of like community organizations that did most of the governance, and then you had like local governments that would do governance, and then a very minuscule amount of the governance would actually be done far away from where the action is happening. And by action, what I mean is what's happening in your community.
Yes, correct.
So that's one of the reasons that I think, and this is not my independent idea. I mean, I've read a lot of articles, and I think this makes a lot of sense. Is that I think one of the reasons that there's been such a war waged culturally on pretty much every institution, every non-government institution, it's really been grounded in liberalism, in the sense that what the argument is that if like the reason that you have a lot of activists in America today that are so hostile toward the concept of the family is just the very existence of a family would basically demand that your identity is one grounded in relationships beyond being an autonomous individual, that your clearest and most kind of primordial identity is as son, as father, as brother, as husband, and also too as friend, as all these different kind of things. When you're talking about like the church, you're talking about people that are related to one another in the sense of being fellow Christians, universally, and then there are also relationships within the church of you call your priest father, because that's kind of the relational role that the priest is supposed to play in your spiritual life, right? And then you can also look at another example, like let's say like small businesses, like I'm not talking about like a mega corporation, but a small business, small businesses are naturally very communal. People develop very, very relational ties together, and they grow to care about one another. And I guess what I would argue is that since World War II, we've adopted this idea, this notion that the only acceptable way for you to derive your identity is that of being an atomized individual. And that's what I would argue. That's one of the reasons that the counterculture has been at war with any institution that would argue the counter of that, which is that your identity is first and foremost grounded in your relationship with other people. And I mean, so, Jesus says, look at the fruits of anything, right? And then you'll get a pretty good idea as to whether it's true or not true or whatever. So what has happened as we have told people to hell with the family, to hell with the church, to hell with civic organizations? I'm not a very big fan of Freemasonry, but you have civic organizations, you have the lodges, you got Freemasonry, and the thing is, those are all relational, right?
Correct.
It's considered, it's like it's a brotherhood. Mm-hmm. And then they also have other organizations for women where it's a sisterhood and everything. They're all fraternal. That's what I meant to say, is like a fraternal
organization.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Fraternal organizations. So the thing is, there's been a war waged against all of those things. And I think that's what we've seen. Now, what are the fruits we're reaping? We've got record high suicide rates, right? People are suffering from all kinds of loneliness, and people are being medicated. Are
Out
being
the wazoo.
Yeah, exactly.
Therapy, fucking Xanax, everywhere. Yeah.
And the thing is, there isn't. You can go and sit in the chair in therapy for hours and hours and hours, and that is never going to make up for your lack of interaction, for your lack of community, and your lack of relationships with other people.
I feel like the only person I can talk to is my therapist. That is the only person you talk to, you fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
Because you live in your house, you isolate yourself.
Yeah.
We're meant to be communal. We are
Yes.
meant to be out there. I'm an introvert. I get nervous around people. I'm in fucking sales. I go and shake hands. I go and talk to people. It's how you're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Just because I'm a little different doesn't change that. I fucking realize that. When I do sit at my house, I'm like, oh, I'm so comfortable because I'm not out talking to people. If I do it for too long, I get depressed as fuck. It's a catch-22. We're supposed to be out there. We're supposed to be meeting people. Don't get in your own head. Go out there, shake shoulders, make friendships, make brotherhoods.
Well, and you think about in the book of Genesis, what did God say after he created Adam? He said, it is not good for man to be alone.
No.
Right?
Exactly.
And so, I mean, our very nature is grounded in relationships. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that we're reaping the rotten fruits of this framework. And I guess to kind of bring it all kind of back full circle to what we were originally talking about, I think that whoever you want to call, I'm just going to say elites. I would argue the people that are really running the show in the country, the people that are deciding, okay, we're going to give so many $1 billion over here to Ukraine, we're going to give so many $1 billion over here to Israel, we're going to give so many $1 billion to Taiwan, we're going to fund this civil war over here, we're going to fund that war over there. These are people who when they look at casualties and when they look at a war, they're not seeing mothers and daughters and sons and fathers and uncles and loved ones. And, that's not the way they look at the world. That's not the way that they look at people.
Correct.
The only thing they see autonomous numbers on a spreadsheet.
Ones and zeros, baby.
Yep. And it's because they don't give a damn about human dignity. And I think that's one of the reasons that, moving forward, we have to. There's been a lot of damage done to local autonomy, and to local governance, in the form of like churches, civic organizations, families, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's something that we have to fight for, and we have to bring those things back. Mm-hmm. Because if we don't, we're going to continue going down this rotten road, and more people are going to be suicidal. More people are going to be put on mental health medicine. More people are going to go to therapy. And I'm not saying all of those things are necessarily bad.
No.
But the root cause of all of it is that people have been told a lie, and people are believing a lie, which is that they are an autonomous individual, and that understanding themselves in terms of being relational first is somehow tyranny. Mm-hmm. And we have to put an end to that.
Correct.
And I think that's what these elites want for us to think. The elites want for us to think of ourselves as just being little autonomous, disconnected individuals. Because then, when you're an autonomous, disconnected individual who's having who's battling depression and everything, you are an easy target for them. You're an easy target for them to market to, and you're definitely someone who's not going to be able to bite back.
But that is why they try to group up. But the problem is instead of grouping up, with people that have actual similarities, right? Like you and I through church, like all of us, let's say a bunch of Catholics get together, are a bunch of guys that are Miami Dolphins fans. I don't give a fuck what it is. It doesn't matter. We all get together because there's a commonality. Well, the problem is these people try to group up because it's natural, right? But they're these little special, like individual little creatures that live all alone. But the only commonality they have is their oppression and their rage at their so-called oppression, even though it doesn't exist, because they're an individual. So they don't have a commonality. A transsexual doesn't have a commonality with a black person, right? But they team up on the same side of radicalism through the left or the radical left. They team up together, but they don't have a commonality. There's nothing there. Their oppression and their rage is the commonality. So when they come out, there's no logic, or their perceived, their perceived wrongs. They come out and it's rage and it's anger and it's violence, and they don't know why each other are really angry, but they try to sympathize, and you'll hear them talk about it, and then they even turn on each other. They're like, well, you don't know what it's like to be me, and I don't know, and they turn on each other. So that's why you see all this radicalism, that's extreme, like delusional passion of all these wrongs from the left. It's because they're trying to bond naturally with someone similar to them in that thing, but at the same time stay that individual. It's very weird.
Well, I think I don't think Christians have always been the perfect example of this, but I think that Jesus Christ brings everyone together. That Jesus Christ bonds everybody together through love.
Correct.
Willing the good of the other. But the natural human tribal tendency is for everyone to unite together out of hatred for the other guy. Mm-hmm. You're bound together in your tribe because you hate the other tribe.
Yeah, we hate that tribe.
Yeah, and that's the meaning of your life is to put an end to that other tribe because they look weird or they did something weird to you or something or
they're different.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, but the core there is that they're different, and ultimately, I think as this culture has abandoned Christianity, it has lost love as being its core ethic. That's that binds everyone, that binds everything together. And it was never it was never perfect. I mean, humans are fundamentally imperfect and sinners and everything. But when you eliminate love as the highest calling, and that kind of like common glue that sort of brings everyone together, at least it's kind of like the standard that everybody would hold themselves to. Now that's gone, and it's systematic. And now I think people are now trying to find some new thing that can hold them together. And like what you're saying is, I think a lot of people are turning to rage. Like you've got your people that are bonding together based upon genital stuff. You've got people that are bonding together like racial supremacy stuff that people are using to bond together. But all of that is based upon a hatred of the other person, like saying they don't accept me.
Yeah, rage, not love.
Yeah. Or saying that other group over there, they've wronged me, or I'm superior to them, or something like that. And the thing is that that's just a recipe for disaster.
Correct. That's wild, man.
Yeah. So why don't we finish up and kind of like what are some practical things that you think people can do to help kind of alleviate the tension in
well,
the air?
You were about to go through a list right before I cut you off. Realistically, I think going out the foundation of the major pillars, and I think that's where you're kind of going with that. There's a couple, like you said. I think you were going to go into like attacking like the educational system, correct, and stuff like that. I think if we can erode away at the foundation of some of these pillars, it's got to be the only way you can do it, because like you said, TV programs, right? Well, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get us comfortable, just comfortable enough that we're okay with whatever's going on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just comfortable, make our lives comfortable enough to where we're always going to bitch that we don't have just a little more, but it's enough that we'll, at the end of the day, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you got to start eroding away at the pillars, and you were just about to rattle off those pillars. What do you think they are?
Which pillars?
Like, you were going to go through the things that the organizational structures that we need to change in this country.
Oh,
you had no idea what the fuck I was talking about.
No.
Dude, you were literally just letting me talk, and I don't know if you heard a single fucking word.
Well, I heard pillars.
You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch. I listen to every word you say, and you just can't wait for your fucking turn to talk again.
So all right, let's take education.
Yeah.
As one of the pillars.
Okay.
So what we need to do is return the governance over education, return the autonomy back to the locality. Mm-hmm. It needs to come back to the locality where people in some far off other place don't determine what books are in your kid's library, don't determine what type of curriculum is going to be rammed down your kids' throats. These kind of things need to be determined at the local level. Mm-hmm. Now there is objective truth and objective morality that are 100% crystal clear truth. But the thing is, practically speaking, it's tyrannical for one community over here to impose their will on another community over there.
Correct.
And what I would say is that's unique to systems like the American system, because we are not a monarchy. We are not a system where you have one transcendent figure at the top of our system that kind of steers and guides everyone else within the realm. Like the way the Brits are. You have the monarch who kind of like behind the scenes kind of steers things to make sure that everything goes the way that they think is best or whatever. Which there are a lot of wackos over there. Which
of wackadoodles.
Which in all fairness, a lot of it's the result of like inbreeding and stuff like that.
They just stay in the family.
Yeah, exactly. And it just gets worse and worse.
Keeps going.
Yeah. Now, and then you have good examples like a lot of the Habsburg monarchs in like Austria and even in Spain and Austria-Hungary. They were really I mean, they were Christians, Catholic.
Absolutely. And
really did their best to steer their countries in the right direction. Mm-hmm. They failed at that in many times in many ways, but that's not the kind of system that we have here. If you want to have like a monarch, then it's our Constitution.
The Constitution is king.
Yeah, and basically what the Constitution does, it muzzles and puts a major limit on the power of the federal government. At least that's what it's supposed to do. And, like I alluded to earlier, the founders had a vision where they would say we're limiting the power of the federal government because America will be governed by the natural moral law.
Correct.
And that governance will happen through families, through churches, through civic organizations. That's not going to come from government. That was never their vision.
Yeah, it used to be that you said you had societal kind of things. Like a lot of stuff was decided, like you would go to the church and it was decided, or communal disputes, they would come together and agree upon things. The government never really had a place in that. It was supposed to be more of a wide out view, and the local was down to the local level, mm-hmm. like you said. And that's why I'm such a states' rights guy, right? I'm actually a county right guy.
Me too.
Because it's very easy. I know this has probably been said before. I probably said this before. I say this all the time. It's so unrealistic to say to someone, hey, if you don't like it, just leave the country. Like, you're a fucking idiot if you say that. If you've ever said that once, you're probably fucking dumb.
Well, and it's fundamentally un-American.
Yes.
You know?
It is much easier. It's not even really feasible for the most part. It's still more realistic. But let's say you don't like a direction the state's going. It's much easier to leave Florida and move to California or vice versa. You know what's extremely easy, though? To leave a county. To leave a city. If I don't like what the city of Mulberry, Florida is doing, I can move to Lakeland. Shit, I did leave Lakeland and move to Bartow, right? You know it's not easy? Fucking leaving the country.
No.
You could leave, if you like Hillsborough County, you could leave Polk County. You know what I mean? That's so much more realistic. And then you could have counties that actually represent what the people in that area want. And if you don't like what the people in that area want, you can move to one that very similar to your views without just leaving your whole fucking culture, maybe your language, maybe your relations. I could still go visit people if I move a county away. If I move a country away, I'm never going to see those people. Very rare.
Well, you know, too, another thing is if your county, so let's say that your county is about to pass a law that says, I don't know, like let's say your county is about to like ban, I don't know, ban littering. Okay, so they're about to pass a law banning littering. You can go to your county commission and directly represent yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's the thing. You know, democracy is not a form of government. You know, so now the only way that democracies have ever sustained themselves historically without devolving into some kind of an autocracy and central tyranny is through hyper local decision making, where you as the citizen who will be affected by a new law, new change, new local decision of governance, you can go and represent yourself directly before the body of legislators who are going to make the decision to make littering illegal. And to let's say that they want to make it illegal and they want to put people in jail for 3 months if they litter. Well, you know, you may not be that big of a litter bug, but you may say, I think that's excessive, and I don't agree with that. I think that's wrong. What you could do is go and represent yourself directly down to the county commission office. If there is a book in your kid's in the local library, and you don't want it there, go to the county commission.
And represent
yourself and see if you can persuade them.
Correct.
You know, ultimately the problem is when you're talking about decisions being made at the federal level, even when you're talking about decisions being made at the state level, there aren't a whole lot of people out there that can afford to just up and travel to the state capitol or to the Washington D.C., to the federal capitol, and then be able to throw enough money around in order to be heard by enough representatives to be able to persuade them to vote however they want to vote. You know, at least in the locality, the people that are making the decision, they all have to live in the same community that you live in.
They have to look you in the fucking eyes.
Exactly. And the thing is, and again, that goes back to humans are fundamentally relational. We're not autonomous little islands.
You're not pulling
right
bullshit when you got to live in the same thing as it. It's like, oh, I got to deal with these people on a daily level. And they're going to know I'm a fuckhead.
Yep.
You know, I'm not 3,000 miles away doing what the hell I want. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. And you know, ultimately, I think that's going to be the only solution. It's going to be returning governance back to the locality.
You got to go to the locality.
And you know, even trying to bring back like bartering. You know, you find people in your community that are delivering a good or service that you need or that you want, and you figure out how to deliver them something that they need or want and do a trade.
Dude, we don't need that many people making coffee, trying to trade coffee. That's how many fucking baristas there are in this country.
You can never have enough coffee.
It's true. Maybe they'd make the most money. Fucking
Yeah.
baristas, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right.
All right. Well, you wanna start wrapping things up?
Yeah, man, I mean, that's a good spot. I like that. I like that a lot. It's beautiful.
Yes, it is. You know, that's the thing. And unfortunately, this is something. It's something that we've lost. Here, I'll say one last thing before we end, before we conclude. Is, you know, Ron Paul used to say,
Love that guy.
Yeah, me too, man. Ron Paul used to say that unfortunately in America, the weakest argument, or the moral argument, has become the weakest argument.
That is fucking true.
Yep, and that's absolutely true, because the thing is, if you say that you're morally opposed to the United States funding like the civil war in Ethiopia, or you're morally opposed to the United States funding war in Ukraine, or the ethnic cleansing in Gaza, or funding whatever around the world, and there are a whole lot of other examples we could point to. If you say that you're morally opposed to those things, people will just look at you and say, "Oh, well, bless your little heart.
Mm-hmm. You
just,
big dummy."
Yeah, you big dummy. You just don't know anything. You just don't know anything about what's going on in the world. You're just a little country hick. You're just a little simpleton. You're just a little inbred simpleton and stuff. And you can look right back at them and say, "No, you are a simpleton, and the inbred ones are the ones that are running the UK." Is Prince Charles and his family? They're the inbred ones.
Oh my God, we get fucked, dude. That's
Yeah.
how you're ending that.
Yeah, but sorry. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the British, but the thing is, I just lost my train of thought.
Holy shit, dude.
Okay,
Just shit on the...
all right, here.
That's how
Let me
you
just sidebar something. You got to remember something here. My last name is Kennedy, and the British invaded the land of my ancestors. They imperialized us. They colonized us. Then they stole our language from us, and they starved us off of our land. Now, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
You guys came to the greatest
My
country
clan
in the world.
ended up coming to the greatest country in the world. Yes, amen.
Right.
So
the English would like to say, "You're welcome."
well, and the thing that I would say is they're a bunch of inbred hicks. All right. Well, at least their royal family is. I'm not going to impugn all the Brits on that. And I know that the Welsh would agree with me on that too, because the Welsh are, generally speaking, not all that big of fans of the monarchy.
Correct.
But when you say that you're morally opposed to war, or that you're morally opposed to the United States just going and indiscriminately bombing or drone killing, innocent people or something, they'll say, "Oh, well, you're so sweet. That is so sweet, but you're so ignorant. You're so ignorant.
So ignorant.
Yeah, you're so ignorant." And so the thing is, if you were to rewind like maybe 150 years ago, that moral argument saying it's wrong to bomb innocent people, it's wrong to incinerate innocent civilians who did nothing wrong, that would have carried some serious weight about 150 years ago. Now it doesn't.
They don't give a shit.
Yeah,
dude.
because now people reject Christ. They're not able to see those people as being fellow humans.
No, they don't. They see them as less than or something else.
They see them as being an abstract concept, as being autonomous little
They're
islands.
different than me, and I hate them.
Yep, numbers on a spreadsheet.
Correct.
And the thing is, that's why I think ultimately the only solution is for this country to embrace the kingship of Christ once again.
Correct.
You know?
Put the true monarch where he belongs.
Amen.
I love it, brother.
Amen.
Good shit.
Yep.
That's good stuff, man. We got to do this again real soon.
Christ is King.
Christ is King. Cristo.
Yep. Vivo Cristo Rey.
That was horrible Spanish.
Yeah.
Goodbye, y'all. Love you guys.